A very good evening to all our viewers and welcome to this week's edition of The Agenda. My name is Tewan Jabela, your host. Tonight on the show we are privileged to be joined by Professor Mutjinde Katjiua. He is the Paramount Chief of Ovaherero Traditional Authority, and he's here to speak to us about thorny issues, his reign of course, but also issues related to the reparations for genocide and related matters. Umbara, thank you very much for making time.
Thanks, Trevor,
Yeah.
for inviting me.
Wonderful.
And also thanks to the viewers that they are listening in.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
You've been Paramount Chief now since July, if I'm not mistaken, officially. How has it been, really, the journey so far?
Actually, officially, one could say since March, when
really?
Senate elected me.
Okay.
But of course, one could not start with work programs until all rituals are sorted out. So the July meeting was to hand over the symbols of power to me and finally inaugurate me as a ceremonial part of it, as the Paramount Chief of the Ovaherero. And not only here in Namibia, that is in Botswana, South Africa, Angola, Canada, UK, Germany, United States, and elsewhere. That is why I've been moving about to see communities.
But of course, you've been involved in that space generally, but in different capacities. Now you are Paramount Chief. You were a great assistant to the late Rukoro, the late Paramount Chief. May his soul rest in peace. How is the role? How are you settling in this role now?
It's not a very difficult role in terms of settling in, because I've been for 6 years together with the advocate Rukoro, the late Paramount Chief. But it's a different responsibility. It's a different sort of a feeling, because you are now the heart and soul of the Ovaherero community. You are now the person primarily linked the Ovaherero to the ancestors through the Odondangeres and so on. So it's an executive position, but has also huge religious values to our communities.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I know that it's still a very short period that you've been in this position, but what have you been up to? What have you been busy with? I know that you've been, you even went around visiting different communities, both locally and internationally, but maybe if you can stretch that out for me.
You see, Trevor, the first thing really was not to get muddled up with the noise that was in town from December to maybe July and so on. So we've concentrated on finalizing the work program that Advocate Rukoro has left us. So when I came in immediately after my inauguration in July, on the 20th of August, we launched the 5-pillar program. And everything that I do, that the community should be doing, is to talk to those 5 pillars of my governance during my reign. So it is what drives us. And those pillars, I think it's important for you that I mention them to you.
Please.
Because it is what drives, what guides us. Otherwise, you become a moving target, you at random, you are getting into this and that unnecessarily, losing focus. So the first thing, and I made it very simple to the community, it is illustrated by my right hand, not the left hand, but the right hand. So and it's symbolic, when I lift my right hand and say, hello communities, I want the community to think of those 5 pillars. The very first one, being the strongest finger, the thumb, is a pillar of governance and institutional capacity building. A lot of noise that comes in our communities, in any traditional authority, is because the institutional setup, procedures, are not in place or are not written up And that lends ourselves or other communities to people from outside governments to hijack the authority. And that has happened throughout history in our case. At least 4 times over the 6 times that we have changed leadership. So that is why it is important that the institutional development capacity building is strengthened. So that is the rules for engagement, that is the constitutions, that is the procedures of meetings, that is what is expected from each of the 37 chapters or regional councils with their chiefs. They are expected to do ABC. The second thing, really, we're looking at that for any community to prosper, the second pillar is education and well-being. So that is why the index finger is a finger that shows to the future of our people. And the future will only be prosperous if we have an educated nation. The third pillar, and is the longest finger of all fingers, and that is because it represents a key component of any society's existence. That is resilient livelihood. We're launching a program of resilient livelihood and economic advancement. So any community within Namibia, any traditional authorities should be working towards ensuring that their communities have food at the table, each at a family level, household level, that they have money in their pockets, that they invest in their well-being as a society. We must prosper. So the fourth, the ring finger, the fourth pillar is genocide, restorative justice, ancestral land. The Namas, the Hereros have suffered a terrible fate of genocide at the hands of Germany. We continue to seek reparation. We will not leave any stone unturned. Reparations must be paid to the Hereros and Namas in line with the 2006 National Assembly resolution. So we push that agenda. We're looking for restorative justice, and it's not for Hereros and Namas in Namibia. Therefore, this is not something that will be discussed by 2 governments. A government of Namibia trying to represent Botswana or South Africans or Canadians or residents in the UK or United States. So it is only traditional authorities that are transnational. We are transnational political boundaries. So it's an important pillar, and ancestral land, we're going to push that one. We're going to push that one against the odds of our present state. Remember, the SWAPO government in 2016, at its consultative conference, resolved that ancestral land question should not be addressed or entertained in Namibia. At the last National Land Conference, the first president and the second president issued statements that it should not be addressed. The last speaker, the current president, said, okay, let's address it. Then, of course, we are now into the Commission on Ancestral Land, how it was composed, what the terms are, who excluded. The Namas and the Hereros can never be excluded. Also, the Damaras and San should never be excluded to discussing the question of ancestral land, because we have lost it. The terms of reference, whoever is going to do it, must be terms of reference defined by the victims of land dispossession. And these were not random dispossession in the case of Namas and Hereros. There were specific decrees in 1905, 1907 to expropriate completely all livestock, all land from Herero land and Great Namakwa land. So we're very clear on that. That is why we remain pushing up to possibly now pending court case. So that is an agenda that will continue until we got an amicable solution. Now the little finger in our cultures, in African cultures, represent a finger of reconciliation. When kids, all of you, when we have been fighting and so on, You also say, sorry, let's make peace.
Make peace like this.
So this finger really represents our ability, our conscious decision to be friends with the Namibian state, with other traditional authorities in Namibia, outside Namibia. That's the network. That's why the actual labeling of the finger is stakeholder relations and community engagement. Therefore, we are engaging with communities across borders. We are engaging with stakeholders across borders. We are engaging with civil societies, business persons across the borders. Because as a people, we have resources that we can partnership with other ethnic groups in Namibia or other business people outside the countries. So that's the scope that we have set ourselves for. So therefore, anything that we really want to do or will be doing, it will be defined by the 5 fingers.
Yeah, wonderful.
Therefore, my trips across the regions have all been about the 5 fingers.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
That has been very, very articulate, Paramount Chief. Now, you spoke quite at length about the issue of reparations, and you said you would not relent until an amicable solution has been achieved. What is the amicable solution?
You see, I will take you back. In 1868, there is an international law that reads as the Restatement of International Law of 1868, Section 353, which says any wars of annihilation and extermination against tribes capable of culture and language is a crime against humanity. Now, Germany argues in courts in the New York court in 2018 that we were not cultures capable of language and tribes capable of language and culture. We fell under a category that is referred to as wild tribes, savages. Germany uses the same concept to construct the Joint Declaration, that what has happened to us during 1904 to 1908 was not a genocide, because we were savages. But from today's civilization, now that we're included in humanity, that could be referred to as a genocide, but it wasn't. The Namibian government, as a government that went through liberation, as a liberation struggle government, adopts Germany's racist framing of the Joint Declaration. And then the Namibian government goes further and said, give us the money and let this money go to the National Development Program, which is the responsibility of the state, Vision 2030. And not to forget that already in 1989, the two governments had an agreement that Germany will provide Namibia with the highest development aid to any other country in the world, for the exchange that reparations to the Hereros and Namas will never be paid out. So how do we sit here and agree to a flawed declaration? It's a declaration, it's not even an agreement, it's a declaration, an intent. There's no contractual obligation or binding rules. How do we agree to that intent when it's purposefully designed to marginalize the Hereros and Namas? Bumba goes on record and say, look, this Vice President Bumba goes on record and say this issue has affected Namibians, the Damaras, the Odongas, the Sants, and so this is a Namibian issue. By Namibianizing the genocide, makes the Vice President a denialist of the genocide. And that is consistent because when we're pushing for the recognition of genocide, at least in terms of the use of the word, for long the Namibian government has used the word atrocities against the Hereros and Namas. It's only in 2015 when Germany first said it was a genocide that we fell into the the line and start calling it a genocide. So it's not a priority of our government to recognize this thing as a genocide. No wonder. Not a single day in our lifetime has any official person of our state visited Shaka Island in his or her official capacity to commemorate the events or to look at that site.
Yeah.
Same for Swakopmund, that shallow grave site, maybe with 3,000 graves. Same for Odombudo Vindimba and Horenkrans, where the extermination orders were issued. So, why is the state turning a blind eye to the most heinous, atrocious crime against humanity that has happened to its people, to its citizens? So how do you classify that state? It's a state that is turning against its own people. So that's how, and we're looking, when we say we want an amicable solution, luckily, out of an embarrassment or out of no other option to do anything, when the late Paramount Chief Ruako tabled the motion in Parliament in 2006, the National Assembly unanimously adopted the motion that says what has happened to the Hereros and Namas was a genocide.
Yeah.
That there be a dialogue between the victims of genocide and the German state, that the Namibia government as an interested party will have to participate, facilitate the process.
Yeah.
On 6 April 2016, the current president comes in the National Assembly, State of the Nation address, says if it is a Herero and Nama genocide, then that is tribalism. I'm not interested. They can take it and do it themselves. So, who's playing the card of tribalism and neglect and marginalization? So these are the questions we need to put to the state.
Wonderful. Is that part of the reason why you did not entertain the Chiefs Forum meeting that took place recently in Windhoek?
You see, the Chiefs Forum, because Vice President Bumba thinks by excluding Hereros and Namas over the last 6 years, and all of a sudden calling a Chiefs Forum will wipe out the sins of the 6 years, and now we can say people were consulted, the product comes out of consultation. No, it will never be.
Yeah.
Therefore, we cannot come join a process that has been wrong from the word go and try to own it. We can't do that. Therefore, that is why the Namas and Hereros boycotted that event, and that is why that event failed from the word go. Now they are trying to work on an addendum. Maybe we can twist the paragraph here, we can twist the paragraph here. Still, we are saying we are not for renegotiation of a failed, flawed product.
Yeah.
We will not renegotiate. We will negotiate afresh. Yep.
And those chiefs that were in attendance that of Ovaherero and Nama of Herero and Nama origins, are they not considered Nama and Herero enough?
Look at the list. Most of them were given the designation of chief.
Yeah.
And they were given designations of traditional authorities when they are not even gazetted as chiefs, when they are not even chiefs in their communities, when they don't even have those traditional communities.
Yeah.
So the state is trying to create, and we knew this from last year, the state is trying to create pseudo-chiefs along the line to increase the numbers of heads of chiefs. But look at the back of those chiefs. Where are the people? Where are the people?
Yeah.
The people are with NTLA, the Nama Traditional Leaders Association, where all the gazetted, all recognized, all chiefs of the Namas are standing together. The people are with the OTA, the Ovaherero Traditional Authority. Even if you do a referendum and you call for a yes or no where people are standing, even members of royal houses, they know where their interests are. Because we are saying, as the Ovaherero Traditional Authority, we stand for the interest of all Ovahereros, belonging to clans, chiefs of clans, belonging to whatever. We stand for all the Ovahereros that are supporting the authority, that are against the authority, that are dead, and that are alive. So we have a responsibility towards our graves, whether those graves belonged to people who were members of whatever clan, because all the various clans are Hereros, and this authority was established to address for the interests of the Hereros.
Wonderful. Wonderful. We go for a quick break and then return.
Thank you.
The Regional Review brings you news, views, and interviews from NMH correspondents from across the country. If you would like to feature your brand or campaign on this platform, contact regional@synergy.com.na.
We Talk brings you community news that lies at the heart of Windhoek residents. If you would like to feature your brand or campaign on this platform, contact wetalk@synergy.com.na. You live, we talk.
We continue the conversation with Ambara Oshitambi on the show. So there's been a lot of questions around the legitimacy of your reign. You know, people saying that you ascended to power through irregular channels, and so much that there's even another event apparently planned for early next year, where Mike Kavekotora, McHenry Venani, and Dr. Ovaherero Rako seek to elect among themselves the most legitimate PC. What is your claim to be PC?
At first, you must understand that I'm the 7th Paramount Chief.
Yeah.
And through that process, at every transition, we have been faced with challenges of people mostly who are being imposed on Hereros.
Yeah.
We had a very typical example when Samuel Maharero was imposed by Lutfine on the Hereros, until such time that Maharero himself realized that Lutfine is using him against his own people, and then he declared that it's better to die fighting.
Yeah.
So, and that was in the beginning of the genocidal wars. When Kapuo, Hosea Kutako died, we had the same story.
Yeah.
Luckily enough, the South African government has been pushing for years to bring another chief on the Hereros, and therefore when Hosea was 90 years old, the Hereros have appointed Clemens Kapuo, as a deputy paramount chief, just to ensure that the day Hosea Kutako dies, Kapuo takes over. That is why when Kutako died on 18 July, on the 20th July, just a day in between, Kapuo was paramount chief. There was a lot of noise. The South African government went to Botswana, brought some people to be installed as chiefs. There was a noise for a couple of years. Kapuo was referred to as the Vengelier, which means a a salesperson, basically. But that didn't change the course of the Hereros. Now, in this case, we have a chief's council that has 37 chiefs. That means these 37 chiefs run chapters or constituencies, each with about 12 councillors. So I'm the paramount chief then. So this 37, I will take 2 out of the 37 at first. These the chiefs from Ochinene, who withdrew from the Chiefs Council because they did not want to cooperate with Rukoro.
Yeah.
Okay? So their withdrawal comes around November 2020. So out of the 37, we're sitting with 35. Okay? The 35, out of the 35, 33 convened a Chiefs Council meeting and designated me or nominated me. This 33 convened a Senate meeting. They asked for community to bring any other candidate. There was no other opposing candidate.
Yeah.
So this 33 out of 35 voted me into power. Now 2 chiefs, Chief of Okonjatu, Chipenekea, Chief of Ovitoto, basically in the constitution they will be referred, not in the statutes, they will be senior councillors. So these chiefs or senior councillors started to organize against the calling of the Chiefs Council.
Yeah.
Katjiua went as far as calling the red flag to appoint him as the acting paramount chief in Okakara on the 4th of December 2021, which has never happened. The red flags are organs of the OTA. They do not appoint, neither do they nominate. So that was a fake operation just to showcase to Namibian people that here is somebody who is sort of who the people wants.
Yeah, yeah.
It's a fake operation. It's a faulty, flawed operation that we carried out. Then there's an issue of saying a chairperson of Chiefs Council. You know, in law, the chairperson of a Chiefs Council is the head of the traditional community.
Yeah.
But most chiefs, being elderly or being revered, they don't chair meetings. They allocate the task to people around them. So Katjiua and 2 others allocated the task to co-chair the meetings, whoever is present. But then he says, as a chairperson of the Chiefs Council, he is the automatic paramount chief, automatic acting paramount chief. It has never happened in Herero history that the chairperson of Chiefs Council becomes acting paramount chief. It has never happened.
Really?
Never.
Because that has been the narrative to say that, in fact, that has been the tradition and that somehow you didn't want that tradition to be carried on.
Take the latest. When Rwako died, Chief Tube Chombe of Shobinde was the acting, before Rwako's death in 2005 already, he was the acting paramount chief because Rwako was in parliament.
Yeah.
Okay? But he was also the chairperson of the Chiefs Council. Katjiua was the deputy chair. So when Rwako died, a meeting is convened outside of Okahanja to see whether it is the usual acting paramount chief, who was also the chairperson of Chiefs Council, or who else are we going to appoint as the acting substantive acting paramount chief. So that meeting is convened around July 2014, and Tumbe Shombe is appointed as acting paramount chief. The Chiefs Council convenes a meeting at Commando Hall in Katutura, Commando number 2 in Katutura, announce to NBC and say, Chiefs Council reaffirms Tumbe Chombe as the acting paramount chief. Unfortunately, Tumbe Chombe lived for 1 month as acting paramount chief. At that time, Chief Vipura Katjiua was the chairperson of Chiefs Council. He was not automatically promoted to acting paramount chief. In fact, Chiefs Council meet and say, among the eldest chiefs here, or senior councillors here, which one are we going to elect? And they appointed Chief Chipenekea of Ovitoto as the acting paramount chief. He was not a deputy chair, neither was he a chair, but only a senior chief. So, therefore, there is nothing in Herero history where any titular or a nominal chairperson became an acting paramount chief. Nothing. The data would speak for themselves.
Yeah, yeah. So with these ambitions by Venani Kavekotora and Rwako now, I mean, obviously if you are the authority right now, I mean, this is dissent within the House. How are you going to handle this?
They are members of the House. They are hereros, so we cater for their interests. But remember, or take note, Venani himself is a member of the Ovaherero Traditional Authority, not OTA. Take Kavekotora himself. It's a member of Oshikauko Traditional Authority, not OTA. It's only Hove Rirwako who is a member of the OTA. So there's another agenda, and that agenda is driven by government. And I'm saying government, particularly the Ministry of Urban and Rural Development, that goes to the extent and say they will only deal with Kapua because they have not known any Paramount Chief being elected. Kapua was the chairperson, and therefore they deal with the chairperson. When they know by law that the chairperson is dead, the statutory law says the chairperson is the head of the traditional authority, and is the late Advocate Vequiru Koro at the time. So how can you say you're only going to deal with a nominal chair, as if that's a legitimate position in court or in law? The office or the Minister of Urban and Rural Development goes further and deprive the Ovaherero Traditional Authority of 170,000 Namibian dollars from the objective fishing that was given to the ministry and then divided by among the 52 traditional authorities, which was issued by March this year. It's denied to the authority up to this day. We haven't gotten that money. The authority had a car. Last year, for every month, the government gives $1,000 for fuel. Government refused to give that money and took it back to Treasury, where we still had the car and operate the functions of the authority. The minister goes on to say, without precedence, that the car that was allocated to the authority, he will take it back. And then he made the mistake, the first instance. He uses Kapua's charge, that because Kapua went to the police and said the car is in unauthorized hands, and the police came to me with a church number, so and so. The minister uses that church number and sent to staff members to confiscate the car because there's a church number against me. That's what we're giving the church number. So I said, how do you find a government, a state, a minister being ordered by nominal chairperson of any traditional authority to take somebody to come and confiscate the car on instructions of Kapua? Unbelievable. Now, how do you think Hero should think against the minister or the ministry? And this happens at the watch of the vice president, at the watch of the president. Are they colluding to sideline us? Are they colluding to marginalize us? What is the agenda of government against the Ovahereros? These are the questions that I want you to follow up with,
absolutely.
with the ministries and ask these questions.
It's good, good food for thought. Just before we proceed to the other questions, you mentioned the joint declaration briefly earlier in our conversation. It's 18-point-something billion. The destination is muddy because we are told, I mean, like you said, you know, there's this Namibianization of the entire issue, as if to mean that even people who are not directly affected by genocide, that they will benefit in some way. What is your issue with that joint declaration? Is it the amount? Is it the conditions of implementation? What is the issue for you?
The declaration denies that there was a genocide. The declaration is not to repair damages of genocide. The declaration, it's a government-to-government development agenda, bilateral aid. So that declaration has nothing to do with Hereros and Namas. It's not ours.
How do the demands of the descendants of the victims of genocide is that they want to be directly involved. They want to deal with Germany directly, with government, with the Namibian government as a facilitator, you said? Yeah.
That's what the resolution says.
Yeah. And then you have the Germans saying, no, they only deal with state-to-state sort of protocols and that they will not deal with an individual tribe or something like that. What then? What is your demand what should be the approach?
Remember, Pollens himself also said, we don't know, we don't matter, it doesn't matter who the Namibian government brings to table. Pollens himself said that. So it's, they are throwing the ball back and forth between themselves.
Yeah.
But it's a joint decision, it's a joint plan. It was carved already in 89.
So, I mean, governments, one of the arguments have been to say that, look, this, what did they call the committee that was led by the late Ngavirwe?
It's probably a negotiations committee.
Yeah, that team. That it had descendants of the two tribes, the Nama and Ovaherero, and that somehow that should satisfy people like yourself.
Yeah, but that was a small scream. When we complain, as an afterthought, they created the Chiefs Forum. Remember, it is the same chiefs that are now saying, we did not negotiate for what we are now seeing, and they have pulled out. So, and if this matter of negotiations is in the public interests, why is it such a secret to the public?
Yeah.
We don't know what they are negotiating. So bringing a few minorities there and say they represent all. Why don't SWAPO win the election by, like Hake himself says, the president, that he won the first presidential election with 87%. If he has won with so much, why couldn't give the presidency to the party that got the least votes?
Yeah.
So why in this case should the least representatives representing the majority? It doesn't work like that.
Yeah.
He knows, they know. So they are playing a game. And it's simple. We should not get to the table. We should not participate to the discussions, to the reparations. We should not craft the reparations package because it's us. I mean, you are a man. You sit here sometimes and say you want to build a maternity hall for ladies and you're designing everything, but you don't even know the difficulty of giving birth and what it takes to walk from where you're sitting to go and give birth to that sofa. So how do you construct a proper facility for ladies who wants to give birth? Yeah. We are the victims.
Yeah.
And we are in Botswana, we're in South Africa, we're in the UK,
yeah.
We're in Canada, we're in the United States. We know what we have suffered. We know how many Hereros or Namas don't speak Herero Nama in South Africa.
Yeah.
We have visited them ever since 2020, maybe 2012. I can't remember, since Rwako's time. Around the centenary anniversary, yes, long before independence, long before 2000 even. We've been visiting them. Has this state visited them? Does the Vice President know in what conditions the Hereros and Namas live in Botswana or South Africa? He doesn't know. No clue.
No clue.
No clue. So how can he provide a remedy to us? It's a joke.
I hear you. We go for the last break and
Thank
then
you.
Return.
Yeah.
Kletskompas is 'n Afrikaanse kontinuïteitsprogram met Namibiese nuus en onderhoude. As jy jou handelsmerk of veldtog op hierdie platform wil vertoon, kontak klets@synergy.com.na.
We are back again with another
Generations
episode of your
reaches
favorite show.
scholars, varsity and the youth generation through zone, varsity and school news. If you'd like to feature your brand or campaign on this platform, contact Zone at synergy.com.na.
We continue our conversation on the agenda. You recently, as part of your, I suppose, familiarization tours, visited Germany, you visited the UK. You addressed, in the UK in particular, you addressed the Ovaherero-speaking community there. And there's a video clip of you addressing that community where you constantly spoke about the Ovambos interfering essentially with the reparation process, and that they have no idea that what the Ovaherero and Nama went through because they were not affected by genocide. In what way are the Ovambos doing that?
Sorry?
In what way are the Ovambos preventing...
I think it's wrong to say the Ovambos as a general position.
Yeah.
The Ovambo compatriots have been with us in the years of struggle. Before independence, they took our prisoners of wars, King, the Dongas, the Nigeras, and so on, after the German wars and so on. So, but what I was specifically referred to in this case is that our government is posting to represent the Ovambos more than any other tribe in the country. That's the posture of government. That's the posture of the elite that is running the government. For the commoner minority group in the country, it appears this government, its first priority are the Ovambo-speaking people. Look, for instance, I have just narrated to you a couple of areas where genocides took place, and there are a lot of battlefields in south of the cordon fence. Now, for one single day battlefield on 28 January 1904, where the Dongas, after Ovaherero requested the Dongas and every other groups to come and fight the common war, the Dongas fought a war at Namutoni and won the battle. Not a war, a battle. One day battle. The Dongas, through the Heritage Council, managed to put up a monument. But the state, through the head of state, moved there to inaugurate it. It's a big thing. But the state is turning a blind eye to the bones that are lying naked in the Kalahari and in the Namib Desert. It's turning a blind eye. Look, for instance, you take the issue of the Damara Cultural Festival. The president is invited to Okombaye as an invited guest. What does he say? I'm not going to a tribalist activity. But then, yet he goes to Olufukos and all those things. Because that is a national agenda. The Olufuko is a national agenda. The Damara Cultural Festival is a tribalist agenda. Now, who's practicing it? So these are the issues. Now, for instance, as I'm speaking, I'm sitting with people informing me that they are stopped in South Africa, they are stopped everywhere at embassies here in Namibia, in Windhoek, that they cannot get visas because there is an instruction somewhere from the state that says Hereros should not be allowed to travel outside the country. It's a headache that 3,000 Hereros are sitting today in the UK. Why did they go there? It's a continuous marginalization in terms of access to employment. We have people in Okakarara, in Okamatapati, also in the south, who have worked for years as volunteers, as cleaners in hospitals, in clinics, in schools. But all of a sudden, strike kids are brought in post. They are the ones who are supposed to get the job. Are strike kids more Namibians than other Namibians? And when you look at the language of strike kids, they're all speaking Oshiwambo. What impression does that create for the person who has worked for years as a volunteer in the hope that they'll be employed? And if they are not employed, if they're running out of the country, look, and we see we have set cases. Some of them are trapped in Dubai as sex slaves and so on. We hear this, such situation. But they are driven by marginalization, lack of access to employment, lack of access to scholarships, and all that. Of course, we have issues of climate. Look, Okauko, for instance, have suffered 15 years of drought. 15 years of drought. I'm telling you, more than 95% of livestock in Okauko, Kunene, Far Kunene, is gone. Is there any project to restock? None.
Yeah, I know we have extensively covered.
Yeah. So that is why I'm saying there seems to be a posture to benefit Ovambos more than others. Fishing quotas. How many of these, they must actually pull out and say who has gotten fishing quotas ever since independence. We are seeing a lot of Ovambo elites putting villas next to poor Ovambo people also in the north. Villas. And they can't explain where the money comes from. Ministers are putting villas up. Their salaries do not cater for that. Where do they get the money? So the elite is doing the Namibians a dishonest, which might even end up, if poorly analyzed, end up putting tribes against each other. That's very dangerous.
It is. You referred to how there was this whole hype around President Genkob in 2014 getting 87% of the presidential vote, and a lot of analysts at the time said it's because the nation, a lot of people were tired of this Vambolization, if I can call it that way, of the country. That people were just tired of this tight grip of the Ovambos on the national resources. President Hage Geingob came into office. He's not Vambo. The issues that you are raising here still persist. But we have a Damara president there. What is the explanation there?
You see, that's the same question when we're dealing with at some level with the German ministries. The challenge is, you may be the head of a ministry, but the system, the system that is in place is the old system. So the president enters a system that has delivered him to be the president, but a system that has its own agenda. How does he maneuver that to remain popular as a president for the electorate and to control this damage? Maybe he tried, but he failed miserably. He failed completely.
I hear you.
Of course, I would not completely wipe the president off, because if it wasn't President Hage Geingob today, we wouldn't see the monument that he has pushed to be finalized in the name of Hosea Kutako at Hosea Kutako's homestead in Twasis, and the tar road, the electricity that is going there, the water provision. It is a significant project that he has done, and I think the Heroes will probably just remember him for that. But in terms of the bigger pictures, not much. You are a very modern traditional leader. You are active on social media also. I see your tweets, and on the 9th of September you tweeted a photo of a house of a Himba, and you said that it's a hut and it's a mud house, and you said this is the conditions in which people are living.
in the Ovambo-ruled Namibian government, which is doing very little for the minorities. Now, Ombara, the Kunene, Wahima live in Kunene,
Yes.
and Kunene has always been led, except now, in terms of the governor, who is Oshiwambo-speaking, of course, but the governors, the Dudu Murorwas, the late Muharukwa, Ovandwa Behembo, they are not Vambos. Where is their accountability here?
What is the SWAPO General Secretary saying? Sophia Shaningwa. Shaningwa makes it very clear that Namibians, beware, if you vote for any party to take a constituency or a region, we hold the purse. We will not give you the resources.
No.
And that should be a lesson for you. Not vote for any other party but for SWAPO. Ask Shaningwa, what is happening? Why Okaoko people have to walk 10, 15 kilometers to get water to mix with mud, to build houses with mud at this age? Why they still dig holes and trying to water livestock for a whole day? Ask those questions to Honorable Shaningwa.
I think it's a fair question to ask.
Please do.
I'll post it. I'll post it after Congress.
Yes, yes.
So, in closure, again, related to that, New Era published an article in which people reacted, I suppose, mostly to the viral video from the UK. Pam Shelenga calls you a divisive leader. Alfredo Hengari, the presidential spokesperson, says that your statement is toxic tribal rhetoric. What are your thoughts?
They are in a corner. They are in a corner, and they have to throw anything at me.
Yeah.
Because I shall not shy away from the reality. I went to Okako, spent 10 days there. I went to Gam, spent 5 days there. I went to Botswana, spent 8 days there. I'm just coming from the UK and Germany for about 15 days on site. So I know the feeling of my people. I know the conditions that they are living in. I know that the state is marginalizing us. The government is creating a tribal rift between groups. The government has failed the One Namibia, One Nation agenda from the 5th year of independence up to date. So, I would ask Pea, for instance, Moshelenga, why is he holding parties at Shark Island on the bones of Hereros and Namas? Why is he doing that? No. Why is he holding parties in Waterberg above the prison of Hereros? Why is he doing that? Is it because he doesn't care about Hereros? If it's because his leadership orientation is northern, or why? Hengari must ask the same question to his boss. You follow up on those questions.
I would do. It's all that. I suppose
so I think they're feeling the heat.
Yeah.
The reality will come out. A friend of mine said, facts are stubborn things.
Yeah.
So are we, because we follow facts.
Yeah, wonderful. The last thing that I've said that I just want to engage you briefly, we have 1 minute, is I have said personally, and I write in my editorial a lot of times about the fact, for example, that, and you alluded to it briefly earlier on, about the fact that the biggest crime ever committed in this country, which was actually the genocide, the termination of our people, that there's no national day 33 years after independence.
It's not even in the curriculum.
Yeah. I've written in one of my editorials to say that in 1990, when people were crafting these national days or whatever, on top of that list for me would have been that. None of that has happened 33 years later. That should be very worrying.
Because the SWAPO agenda was the liberation of Namibia in 1966 marks our history of liberation. Anything that happened before was minute. So that's the narrative. That is why you see in school curriculums, there is no mention of genocide in Namibia. That is why our government is celebrating the Fontrota Statute in Swakopmund, allowing Germans to do it. It means that our government is celebrating together with the Germans, together with our citizens. Otherwise, we have called them to order and say, guys, that is completely improper. Completely.
Absolutely. Mbara,
Yes, my friend.
it has been a pleasure, sir. Thank you for making time.
Thank you.
I appreciate it.
Thanks.
Okweb.
Thank you, Sileni.
Yeah. So that was Mbara Oshitambi Mutjinde Katjiua of the Ovaherero Traditional Authority. He is the Paramount Chief, sharing with us his thoughts on a number of issues. Thank you for watching.